Our Nuggets fans, welcome into Pickaxe and Roll, brought to you by our good friends here at FanDuel. I'm your host, Ryan Blackburn at NBA Blackburn on Twitter, part of the Mile High Sports Podcast Network, and I am here. I am ready to discuss the Denver Nuggets. If you can tell, I've got a little bit of a different orientation. My monitor is now over here. Got a bookcase back there. There's some changes going on in the room, trying to make this a better podcast space, as one is want to do, especially given the number of podcasts that I do. So be patient with me if things are a little bit shaky, if I'm looking at the wrong direction for this show at various points, but wanted to try to get into the flow of things and just make everything pretty good. So very excited for this particular show. On today's episode, we're going to talk about various teams that are impressing, some pivot players that I'm thinking about for the NBA this season, what the Nuggets still need to learn this year. But first things first, we're going to talk about David Adelman. And I think that there's a lot of not concern, but certainly like uncertainty about like how David Adelman is going to run things. Is it going to be exactly like last year? Are things different now that there are different players in place? I wanted to get at least a little bit of my thoughts on record here. The Nuggets are going to have a practice later today. We're going to be able to discuss um, a variety of things. And I'm looking forward to hearing from them and hearing what they thought of the first couple games that they played and also what they still need to work on. So we got a lot of things that we're going to get into, but first, let's talk about David Adelman. I think that the most important thing the Nuggets can do over the course of the first couple months of the season, you try to get off to as good of a start as possible, but I've kind of walked back my stance of they have to be a certain record. They have to be a certain threshold at this point. And here's why. I didn't fully appreciate how much turnover there was with the Nuggets and trying to build a new system, trying to build and discuss a variety of different things. And I mean, you think about all of the players that they have brought in and all of the new voices, all of the new names. There's just a lot of turnover. You think about the coaching staff, and that's kind of an underrated aspect of change. It's not just that David Adelman is in place for Michael Malone from last year. It is that Jared Dudley's the new defensive voice. JJ Barea is giving new stuff to help out Adelman on the offensive end. Rodney Billups, somebody who I'm familiar with, who's been around at Nuggets games over the course of the past couple of years as an area scout. He is now in place as one of the coaching staff members and somebody that they can rely upon. There is a lot of change that has happened. And usually when there's a lot of change, like that can be good. It can, of course, be a good thing. The Nuggets are hoping that it is a good thing. But it's not always going to go smoothly, especially with like not just with the players that are in place. Like I think everybody assumes Jokic is going to be fine. Jamal Murray is going to be fine. Aaron Gordon's going to be fine. The players that have been around for a while and you know how things are going to go, that's not going to be the concern. The concern is that on top of having new voices as coaches, you're also now trying to figure out new voices as players. And Bruce Brown is back, but it's a little bit different this time around. And I think he's going to be utilized a little bit different now that we've seen him for a couple, now that we kind of understand what the Nuggets are working with their system. I think that there's definitely an opportunity for a lot of change there. Jalen Pickett is going to try to get established as a backup point guard. You have Julian Strawther and Tim Hardaway Jr., who are battling it out for positions on the wing as a wing shooter. Peyton Watson is trying to get paid. Jonas Valanciunas is new. Deron Holmes is trying to figure stuff out. There's just a lot of shifting from last year's bench unit, which mostly featured probably Murray at the end, like towards the majority of it. But then you had Russell Westbrook, Julian Strawther, Peyton Watson, and somebody like a DeAndre Jordan. Now you're probably going to run Jamal Murray again, if I'm being honest. But if let's say you're not, it's Bruce Brown, it's Julian Strawther, it's Tim Hardaway Jr., it's Peyton Watson and Jonas Valanciunas. It's just a completely different style. It's a completely different way that you're looking to do things. And it just would not surprise me if the Nuggets got off to a slower start as a result. And it kind of brings me to Adelman specifically. He's going to have to be patient, and the Nuggets are going to have to be patient with him because as like last year unfolded the way that it did. He's the guy who parachutes in, is willing and able to say, "Hey, we don't care about all this stuff that just happened for the first 79 games of the season. It's game 80. We've got 3 games to go in the regular season, and then we've got the playoffs. We're trying to win. Like we're trying to do whatever it is to win basketball games." And that was a good perspective to have at that point of the season when there was nothing else, no agendas pulling any different direction, and there's nothing else that you have to work on for the entire length of the season because there wasn't a length of the season. It was just the end. Now, like I'm thinking about Deron Holmes. I'm thinking about somebody who the Nuggets have invested a lot of resources in. He lost a full year, and I'm wondering if he's going to get completely cut out of the rotation. And I think that would be a mistake. I talked about this yesterday on Mile High Sports Today, which you can go tune into on the MHS YouTube channel. I think that Denver is in a really interesting place. And okay, Eric Spoelstra was just named the head coach for USA Basketball. Good for him. I think that Deron Holmes is one of those guys that might get lost in the shuffle because he's not quite ready and because the veterans don't quite trust him. But the only way you develop trust, the only way you develop an actual level of consistency is if you're out there, is if you're playing, is if you fight through those struggles at least a little bit. You don't have to do it an extensive amount. Like this isn't last year with Julian Strawther, for example, where Julian Strawther is just going to be your eighth man, dude. That's how it's going to go. They had Russell Westbrook as their sixth man, Peyton Watson as their seventh man, and Julian Strawther as their eighth man, and there was no other option for a long time. So Michael Malone used Julian Strawther, and Julian Strawther became a better player as a result of it. But the Nuggets never fully thrived with their second unit because there was a level, not of distrust, but like, hey, this is a flawed player, a young player learning how to play for the first time. It's tough. It can be tough. So I think that the Nuggets need to have some patience. I think that fans need to have some patience, and David Adelman needs to have some patience. There are things that are not going to work immediately, that it's okay that it doesn't work. As long as there is an objective for what you're doing, for what you're trying to accomplish, and you're like the overall through line is yes, you want to win as many games as possible. Yes, it would be nice to win 55, 58, 60 games, whatever the number is. You want to blow teams out? Cool. Maybe that's the way you get Deron Holmes on the court a little bit more is in the fourth quarter. You're up by 40, you're up by 30, and then, hey, Deron Holmes can play 12 straight minutes in the fourth quarter, and you're going to be good with it. That's a great opportunity if you're a Nuggets fan. But that's not always going to be the case, and there are always going to be opportunities where, the plan doesn't necessarily work out all the time. As long as there's an articulated objective, I don't think you have to win a whole bunch of games. You probably should. You got to be a top 3 seed. That's a guarantee. If you're going to win a title, you have to be a top 3 seed. The math checks out on that. It allows you to rest. It allows you to have other things that you've worked on, and you're just a well-rounded team at that point. So I think that is a step that, of course, needs to be taken. However, if you are just going all out for wins and there's nothing else that you're accomplishing throughout the regular season, and you're probably doing it wrong. So, David Adelman in this place, this is the first time that he's ever had to deal with things like that. This is the first time he's ever had to balance out like the full on, hey, veterans don't trust young guys. Let's just play the veterans. Or if you are Jamal Murray, for example, and you're like, okay, not sure how to feel about this combination, this rotation, this certain thing. And he makes that clear. David Adelman wants that feedback. Ben Tenzer, John Wallace, they said they want the feedback on the roster. When the players start giving the feedback on the roster and it goes counter to what you're trying to accomplish, how do you deal with that? How do you navigate those situations? There's so many layers, there's so many things that you have to worry about as a head coach beyond just winning basketball, beyond just winning games. So I just think that this is going to be a process. I think it's okay. This is a situation where if you're a Nuggets fan, you're probably hoping that David Adelman is your coach for the next decade, right? Like you want him to be the guy that like coaches for the rest of Jokic's prime and the rest of Jokic's career, then helps set up the team for the next generation. David Adelman's a young enough guy that you could see him coaching for a while, and that would be the goal. But turnover happens so fast in the NBA because so many things are pulling all at once that you just need to have some patience for it to unfold. And I think that with patience comes the understanding from coaches that you're not going to be immediately fired if things don't work out immediately. That could be tough. I'm not trying to say that this year is not a win or go home kind of year. Like this really is a very high pressure year. But I do just think that's the Nuggets and David Adelman and everybody. You can't let the overarching pressure dictate how you coach or how you play or how you understand like certain things that are going on. I just think it's got to take some time, and you've got to go about things the right way if you possibly can. Like Cody says, there's a chance Adelman could be our SPO. There's a great chance of that. There's an absolute great chance of that. He's got the mind for it. He has the charisma for it. He's a guy that you believe in. He's a guy that the players believe in, but it's going to take some time. And so as long as he continues to provide that kind of holistic, uplifting, competitive, like real desire to win environment, then there is a chance for it. But it's going to be a challenge, and there are going to be things that we are not seeing right now that might face him going forward. So cross that when the time comes. According to FanDuel, the Nuggets odds to be a 1 seed this year are plus 550, to be a 2 seed are plus 300, and to be a 3 seed are plus 400. Those are the numbers for if David Adelman has done a really good job, for if he has or if the Nuggets have stayed healthy, if they're playing the right way, if they have fully bounced back and are committed to the defensive end, if they are willing and able to go hard, or at least hard enough in the regular season to kind of get through the malaise of, okay, the offense wasn't perfect, defense carried the day. How many times last year could you say that the defense really carried Denver when their offense didn't work? It's very few. So could this be an opportunity where Denver gets back to that sort of identity? Probably not, but you never know. It'd be nice for Denver to win some defensive games every now and then. So we will see what it looks like, but I'm very curious to see what David Adelman does and how he handles the rotation, how he handles all the pressure that is surely going to face him. I mean, as media, we're going to be asking him these things. We're going to be asking him about what the fan base is looking for, different questions that the fan base is going to have, and trying to articulate those in the best way possible. How does he deal with it? What do the Nuggets do? How do they respond to adversity? Like there's a lot of things. Like the season is so long. So you have to be holistic with it. And I do think that there's a great opportunity for Denver to make things happen. The Nuggets, for what it's worth, they still need to learn how to defend. That's pretty simple. They still need to learn how to defend. They still need to learn who they can trust in different situations. And that's not like what you learn in October. It's what you learn in January. It's what you learn in February. It's what you learn along the way. It's going to take some time making it like you can have preconceived notions at this stage, but until the games actually matter, the Nuggets, they're probably making their preconceived notions, the players are, but I'm not necessarily sure that that's the right thing to do at this point. You have to keep an open mind. Fans do as well. And then the Nuggets, of course, they still have to learn what their bench is going to look like. And that's going to be a chore in and of itself for David Adelman to try to manage, because he can't just go to one set unit the entire time. The Nuggets have 12 or 13 guys that you would expect to play on a relatively consistent basis, but you can't play 12 or 13 consistently every night. You're going to have to make choices. It's going to be 10 guys. Maybe it's 11, but realistically it's probably 9 or 10. So how does David Adelman kind of cycle through those things? How does he make it work? I'm super curious what it looks like. Okay. When we come back, we are going to discuss some pivot players around the NBA, some teams that I've got my eye on. There's a lot of things that I'm looking forward to, very excited to be able to talk about. But first, this message from Delete Me. This podcast is brought to you by Delete Me. Delete Me makes it easy, quick, and safe to remove your personal data online at a time when surveillance and data breaches are common enough to make everyone feel vulnerable. Data brokers, they profit off of your data. It's a commodity. Anyone on the web can buy your private details. This can lead to identity theft, phishing attempts, and harassment. Have you ever been the victim of identity theft, harassment, doxing? If you haven't, you probably know someone who has. Delete Me can help. Take control of your data and keep your private life private by signing up for Delete Me. Now at a special discount for our listeners. Get 20% off your Delete Me plan when you go to deleteme.com/hit and use promo code HIT at checkout. The only way to get 20% off is to go to joindeleteme.com/HIT and enter code HIT at checkout. That's joindeleteme.com/HIT, code HIT. All right, welcome back. Pickaxe and Roll, Ryan Blackburn here. Thank you so much for tuning into the show. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Would really, really appreciate it. What do you guys think of the different camera angles on the previous one that I had with the ad recording versus the one now? I'm curious to see. Also got to get that picture up on the wall. That's a good idea. I should probably put it up behind where that lamp is. That way I can angle this camera at least a little bit more. All right. Let's talk about pivot players. And it's very funny. Cody, you're right on the nose. This is going to be an interesting one. Matas Buzelis is going to ball this season, says Cody in the comments. Yeah, that's one of the pivot players that I'm thinking about right now. We'll get to him in just a bit. First and foremost, according to FanDuel, most improved odds for the season. I've gone over these in a variety of ways, but it's one of the ways to really evaluate where public perception is on the players that are going to take a step forward. And when I think about pivot players, I think about guys that are either going to not take a step forward or take a step forward, and what they do really shifts things for themselves, for the team, for the conference even. Like there's a lot of things to have to manage. According to FanDuel, the most improved odds are as follows for some of these guys that I'm going to talk about. Amen Thompson, plus 1,000. I think he's one of the leaders in the clubhouse for sure. Matas Buzelis, plus 1,600. Shaden Sharp, plus 2,500. Reed Shepard and Jaden Ivey, plus 3,000. Jalen Johnson and Nikola Jovic, plus 4,000. Cooper Flagg is a pivot player, but he is not eligible for most improved odds because he has never played in the NBA. though his rookie of the year odds, I'm pretty sure, are pretty high. They're probably it's debating on minus odds for that, because I think everybody expects him to be pretty great very soon. I wanted to talk about these kinds of players because I think it's interesting for the Nuggets specifically. They have another pivot player in Peyton Watson, I think, who I talked about in the last show, just kind of reacting to what the Nuggets did in preseason, what they, or in the first couple of preseason games, what they do, what Peyton Watson specifically has looked like. He is a pivot player for sure for Denver. We'll get to him in just a bit. But for these other guys, they are capable of shifting the Western Conference, the Eastern Conference, wherever they play, in a way that you would be surprised about. Cody also talks about Ace Bailey with the Utah Jazz last night. I agree. Utah's still going to win less than 20 games somehow, some way. I just they are going to be bad. But for the other guys like Amen Thompson and Reed Shepherd specifically, like they just need to be good. I've talked about this before with the Fred VanVleet injury. If they are not good, then the Rockets will probably be like, they'll be a playoff team still because they have a high floor. Alperen Sengun also there, like already being there is good. Kevin Durant looked pretty good last night, although it was interesting to look at the box score. He just shot the ball and did nothing else. Like he had like 2 assists, 1 rebound, or maybe I flipped those things. But really interesting to think about. Sorry, so I'm getting pings from my guy Brent, who's need to hide that. There's just a lot of teams, I think, that can be really dangerous if their young guys break out, if their young guys are better now than you would expect them to be. And the Houston Rockets are certainly one of them because Amen Thompson, like he looked pretty great last night. He's one of those guys that you would expect to be good immediately. How the Rockets kind of handle themselves from a starting perspective, we'll see. But he's got to be more of a point guard than he was before to replace VanVleet. Reed Shepherd just has to be playable, and he'll probably be playable. He was the 3rd overall pick of the draft for a reason. I don't think he's going to bust, but I also think that his flaws probably going to come forward if he has to be a starter for them. And there's a very strong possibility that he is a starter for them, at least on like 30 to 40 games of their season. So Houston's going to be an interesting one. Shaedon Sharpe is another one that I've got my eye on with Portland. Had a really good preseason game last night. And Portland is one of those teams that I think a lot of people have disparate opinions on. I think that they can be not just a play-in team, but a legit playoff team if they develop the way that you would expect them to. Scoot Henderson had an injury. He has an injury that is going to kind of hold him out for a little bit, but with them trading for Drew Holiday, him starting, it does seem like they have enough defenders on their roster and kind of in their lineup to consistently say, okay, we are going to try a variety of different things, but our identity is going to be defensive. Like Tumani Camero was great for them last year. He's going to be better in his second season offensively. Jeremy Grant, they could probably do without Jeremy Grant. Like the fact that he is starting over Denny Avdia is ridiculous in my opinion. Portland fans are probably going to have a conniption about that at some point, but Jeremy Grant does not deserve to start for them anymore, but he makes so much money that it's hard to go any other direction. But Shaedon Sharpe is one of those guys that on a team that doesn't have a lot of shooting, that doesn't have a lot of offense, he might be the only main scorer for them, a guy that could potentially lead them in scoring for the entire year if he's able to stay on the floor from a defensive perspective, if he's able to stay on the floor just as guys are targeting him, as guys are really locking in on him. They are like, Portland is going to be a very interesting team to monitor on the season because a lot of people just assume that they are not going to want to do it. But I think that they're really trying to go for it. They're really trying to make the playoffs, and whether that's a good thing for their future or not remains to be seen. But if Shaden Sharp develops into the way that they think that he can, then maybe that's a little different. True Teller pops in here. He asks, "Hey Ryan, what do you think about CJ McCollum as an option for the Nuggets? Is that even possible with the Cronkies wanting to avoid the tax?" It's not a tax issue. It is like literally a financial salary matching issue because he makes 30 million and McCollum is too like he's just too pricey for the Nuggets to trade anybody other than their top 5 players in order to actually make up the difference in that cap. Like, for example, if you don't trade your top 5 players, you have to pair basically 3 of Valanciunas, Zeke Naji, and well, you can't even get there. Like, you really need to change. You would need to move one of Cam Johnson, Aaron Gordon, Nikola Jokic, or Jamal Murray in order to get there. So, no, the answer is they're probably not going to do that unless CJ McCollum gets bought out and then the Nuggets get him as a buyout guy, which they can do if they stay under the first apron. So it is like not just a Cronkies wanting to avoid the tax issue. It is literally they have to stay under the first apron if they wanted somebody like McCollum. So I think that it would be cool if they got him. Like that would be a great fit for Denver at this stage where you just get another ball handler, somebody who can create their own shot. There's probably a diet McCollum out there, somebody that they will be able to get it at a various point. But yeah, you're probably going to need some sort of ball handling. We've talked about this before. I could get into that in just a little bit, but probably not today. Okay, back to the list. Shaden Sharp was one of those guys. I think he'll be good this year. Matas Buzelis is another one, as mentioned earlier. Looked really good in the first preseason game, and starting at power forward, it makes a lot of sense that Chicago has now kind of shifted him in there. Whether he is going to be their starting power forward for the entire season or not remains to be seen, but it just makes sense for a team like Chicago to try to get him in there as much as possible. He could be their best player, man. Like he really could. I just had the realization that Nikola Vucevic is still on that team, and I just don't really know why. That seems ridiculous at this point. But they've got kind of a mix of like you've got Vooch as their holdover veteran. You have Kobe White, Josh Giddey. Sorry, blanking on him for some reason. A couple of guards that they would like to commit to, but everybody and their mother has made the joke that Chicago's going to be about 37 to 38 to 39 wins again this year. And the only way that changes is if they go one of two directions. They could either go down, which seems easier, and they actually like sell out Vucevic. They go to a variety of other different directions and just trade some of the other guards and veterans that they have on their team. Or you really get some good stuff from somebody like Buzelis, who I think he was a former number 1 overall potential pick for 2024. It was either going to be him or no, this wasn't a Buzelis versus Flag kind of thing, but I remember when they were at one point talked like in the same vein where Cooper Flag, Matas Buzelis, number 1 overall pick type in 2024, number 1 overall pick type in 2025. Buzelis, of course, falls in that draft. I think he fell down to like 11. His draft stock really fell in a year where he was expected to be the top guy, but then had a pretty rough season right before being drafted. And yeah, Cody's we're on the same page. Buzelis Flag one-on-one videos, like they were sick. Like that was what you're expecting. And then last year, Buzelis, like it was a little bit slow on the get up in terms of him really starting to understand things. But once he started to really get it, you started to really see a lot of moments where he was crushing it. He has so much athleticism. He has so much um like pop to his game that if he starts making threes on a relatively consistent basis, he's just athletic enough and creative enough with the ball that he'll be able to find so many more opportunities. Like, think about the difference between Shaden Sharp and Buzelis. Buzelis is like 6'10, 6'11, somewhere in that general range. He's like the size of Michael Porter Jr. from a height perspective, but he has the explosiveness to be in the dunk contest. He has the athleticism to be like a real burst athlete. So kind of like a Shaden Sharp, although Sharp is like all the way up there. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens with Buzelis and the Chicago Bulls. More than likely, they're going to just be shaky as hell. But there is a possibility, at least, that they are a real, like, not like they're the East is just ready for the taking. Like there's no reason why they couldn't be a 6 seed. There's no reason why they couldn't be a 4 seed. They just need somebody to actually pull them that direction. And so if it was Buzelis, that'd be cool. Other guys, and we'll go more rapid fire through this section. Jaden Ivey coming back from the leg injury that he sustained. It allowed Tim Hardaway to kind of be their sole shooting guard last year. They moved Osar Thompson into their lineup. And now, like, Ivey, I think, is expected to reprise his starting shooting guard role now that Hardaway is gone. But what does it look like? How does he feel? It was a little bit shaky between like the combination of Cade Cunningham and Jaden Ivey for the Detroit Pistons before the injury, just in terms of whether they were blending together well or whether Ivey was taking over and trying to be that backup point guard type. Just was a little bit off. But I do think that Ivey's probably going to be pretty solid for them. They've also got a couple of other like actual shooting guard types that might really change that perspective. Let's go to the scoreboard here and see if has Detroit actually played a preseason game yet? Yes, they have. Let's go look at what their starters were. Yeah, so Ivey did start for them. Duncan Robinson came off the bench. Karis LeVert came off the bench. Those are the two guys that I'm thinking of when I think, okay, maybe they could replace Ivey in the starting unit with one of those guys. But no, probably a good idea that they try to work Ivey back into things. He is a player that could be a $25, $30 million player for them. So see if we'll see if that pops this year, because if he really does take that leap forward along with some of their other young guys, like Detroit could absolutely still be a top 4, top 5 seed, despite the fact that they kind of overperformed last year in some ways. So see what happens with them. But I do like Ivey. I've always had a soft spot for him and his game and the kind of style that he likes to play. Jalen Johnson's another one. He got injured during the middle of last year. He was debatably Atlanta's best player. Him coming back, him playing next to Kristaps Porzingis, Onyeka Okongwu being 1 year better, hopefully for them. There is a plenty of opportunity for Jalen Johnson to even be an all-star with Atlanta this next year. If he is, then Atlanta's got some serious gas potential for them. Like they could absolutely make the Eastern Conference Finals. It just having to match up with the Knicks or the Cavs will be interesting, but there's no reason why they can't get past either of those teams if somebody like Jalen Johnson hits. Nikola Jovic with Miami, sort of the same conversation as Buzelis, although at different levels to that. Jovic just signed a new contract with Chicago or with Miami, excuse me. And you just see all of these Eastern Conference teams and think, yeah, if they're the young guys that they've been drafting in the lottery, if they all just hit, or near the lottery, if they all just hit, then the East would be better. They would be so much better than they actually are. But so often we see guys like this that I'm talking about kind of fading into the background a little bit, maybe not popping as well. But if they do, conversation becomes a little bit different. So Jovic probably going to start for Miami, or at least he should. Starting Khalil Ware was nice for them last year, but I just don't see a reason why they should actually do that. Bam Adebayo should be a center. Um, get with it, my guy. And then you've got two more. The first one I'll go with is Cooper Flagg. If he's better than people expect, then and like super impactful at this stage, there's no reason why Dallas can't win, like get into the playoffs. They have a couple of holes in their roster, like large sized holes in the backcourt where Kyrie Irving used to be, but D'Angelo Russell is currently starting for them. They'll probably like I don't know if they're going to start Klay Thompson, but that would be the expectation, I would guess, is that they started somebody like him. So they have some deficiencies in their backcourt. But if Cooper Flagg can help their defense, if they could be a top 5 group, they don't need to do that much on the offensive end in order to kind of make up the difference. So it'll be interesting. But I do think that, again, Cooper's one of those. If he's one of those ones, then you just never know. You never know what it's going to look like. Now, is he going to do it at the small forward position while Anthony Davis is at power forward and Derek Lively's at center? We'll see. That'll be a fun one to kind of evaluate. Kind of reminds me of the Detroit Pistons back in the day with Josh Smith, Greg Monroe, and Andre Drummond all trying to start at the same time. Anthony Davis is obviously better than Greg Monroe, and the hope is that Cooper Flagg is better than Josh Smith. We will see whether that's actually the case. There's a lot of positive hype early in the season about Dallas and their defense. So I mean, we'll find out together. And finally, Peyton Watson, as we circle this conversation back around to the Nuggets. Peyton Watson has the chance to be the Nuggets' sixth man. There's an absolute possibility that happens. And if it did happen, and if the Nuggets like really fully took advantage of that skill set, it allows Cam Johnson to shift to power forward at times. It allows Aaron Gordon to not have to defend on the ball as much, or maybe he defends off ball, and then Peyton Watson is the primary rim protector in certain lineups where he's rotating over. It allows Aaron Gordon to rest. It allows Cam Johnson to rest. Maybe the Nuggets decide to go with a bigger lineup and they play Peyton Watson in place of Christian Brown at various points. You go Murray, Watson, Cam Johnson, Aaron Gordon, Nikola Jokic. There's at least a possibility where that happens and Peyton Watson really takes a step forward with his entire game. Whether he's trustable or not for those veterans remains to be seen. It seems like he's bought in, seems like he's trying to do the right things. I wonder what the contract situation is going to look like. If I had to guess, like probably in that $12 million range. Nikola Jovic he's established a level that was just a little bit better than Peyton Watson throughout the first 3 seasons of their careers. And Jovic just got a 4-year, $62 million deal. So Peyton Watson, I think it's pretty reasonable to say, yeah, 4 years, $50 million, 4 years, $48 million, somewhere in that $12 to $12.5 million range sounds about right to me. But if they can get to that, if they can sign that and kind of take the pressure off of the table, in that case, I think that he could have a big year. I think that he could have a year that would be very exciting for a lot of people. And the Nuggets could really reap the benefits of him growing as a defender, growing as an offensive player, being able to play with more versatility, and just give some of their main guys a break every now and then, which they just didn't have that much of an opportunity last year. Like Peyton Watson he still played 24 minutes last year, 24 minutes a game, but there's more opportunity here for that to happen. True Teller's like, LOL, we don't want another Zeke Naji situation. Well, Peyton Watson's actually playing. Like he's actually contributing and being a pretty strong contributor, I would say, in a situation where he definitely has to have, like he's gotten opportunities and he has played in the playoffs and been successful in the playoffs. So I hope that he gets paid. I hope he gets that opportunity to really recoup that, but who knows? Okay. Everybody, I think that's going to do it, unless I'm missing anything here. I guess which teams are impressing kind of goes hand in hand with some of the pivot players that I was talking about. Nothing crazy. Boston got a win, but they're playing against a pretty injured Memphis team early on. Toronto looks pretty good from a ball handling and ball pressuring perspective. I like their starters. I think that they're going to find a good blend with their guys. Keegan Murray and the Sacramento Kings look a little disappointing to start. Houston, we'll see. They're not quite in that impressive tier, but I do think, yeah, we'll cut it there. There's plenty more to get into. The next time you'll hear from me is on Saturday. Denver will play on Sunday, I believe, and we'll have plenty of opportunities to look in at practice for the Nuggets over the course of these next few days. They're going to be traveling on Saturday to go play another preseason game, and I'm excited to be able to share that with you guys. So thank you so much for tuning into the show. Make sure to hit that like button, hit that subscribe button on the way out. I will talk to you guys very soon.